So that was the catalyst for me. And what martial arts taught me to do throughout the whole course was, if you are surrounded by enemies, you look at the biggest player, you look at the biggest opponent, you take that out, the rest will fall. And so in order to do that, you have to be equipped with all the abilities to do that. You just didn't come into this game haphazardly. You have to have all the skills, the ability, and the talents to take out the biggest opponent that you're surrounded by. And that's what I learned to do. And it's with that token that it allows the use that I utilize throughout my entire life, even to this day. And that's what has saved me. That was the saving grace for me. And so now that I got out, I did a lot of research on my own, due diligence, and I've gone into court. And when I learned about how the court was really operating, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to have a little fun with this, because at the end of the day, I know that I was going to come out of the system and I was going to teach other people how the system actually lures you. And first and foremost, let's get into some of the components of that. The components were, they got into words. Words is an important ingredient for these powers to be. It is the weapon. It's like a battering ram for them. And if you can't understand words, you are lost, because words is everything. If you're not educated, and if you are just a slave, well, you're going to continue to be a slave. And so they found that the words was the greatest weapons than firing a single shot. And so they got into various, you've got legalese, which is pertaining to any measures pertaining to going into the courts. Then you have the academics that we was taught when we went through their school system. And then, of course, now that I'm teaching in my class, I'm teaching people about there's a third language that no one ever knew that exists. It's called the Style Manual. The Style Manual has something entirely different than they taught any of us in their academic schools. So you said, okay, wait, hang on a minute. What do you mean by the Style Manual? It has another language in of itself. Not to mention that they taught us in their school full system that there's an alphabet from A to Z. Well, I got something to tell you here, that's only 26 alphabet, but there's total of 52 alphabets in the language. So we're all speaking a half a language. You're not even speaking, you're only speaking half truth, if that's what you want to say, if this is how you choose to look at it. And so when you get into, my God, I'm speaking half a language, no wonder there's not enough words to describe what's really going on in our lives. And this is what they have done. So what they have done was they have made this such an interwoven that no one person can figure this thing out. And that was done all intentionally. So they use words in a means of luring people, deceiving people without full disclosure. And so in the case that people don't know, let's get into how they've done that. So the corporation that they created through the Vatican, this planet is run by, first and foremost, let's be very clear about how this planet operates. Nothing moves on this planet without a contract. First rule number one, everyone needs to write that down, because everything that we do is contractual. And everything that you do, if I wink my left eye, you should wink your left eye, as if we're in an agreement. Okay? If I extend my left hand, you extend your left hand. These are what we call maxim of law of like kindness, because what they have incorporated was 5 little words. It's called disparate non debent jonge. Dissimilar things are not to be joined. That means flesh versus paper. So that makes to say flesh can only be attracted to flesh, paper to paper, and not paper to flesh. And most people go, what the hell is that? Is that they tricked everybody by tricking them into flesh and paper. See, when they created the corporation through the Vatican, because the Vatican said that anything on this planet was a contract. So what the Vatican then done was, once they made everything contractual, they placed everything over a trust. So a huge magnetic trust has been created on this planet. There's thousands upon thousands of different variations of trust. I'm sure some of you who's been following this may be aware of it or not. And I will say that just to cover for those that might be listening for the first time. Okay, so the sequential trust via has been created, and from that in and of itself is a corporation. So now coming home here to America, they decided that the corporation is what you are. So they remove you from being a living, breathing male and female, and they decided to make a duplicate of you and call it a corporation, but in the case of a trust. And what America was talking about when we mentioned about you're pushing around their documents. So from this standpoint of things, you are a corporation. Your name is spelled in all uppercase. And because of that, you are a slave. You are their property. And so any taxes that is due, you must pay. Now, before all of you set your hair on fire, let me tell you why you are obligated to pay your taxes and to dance to their tune. Because see, everything that you claim that you think you have is in fact theirs. And all you have to do, you don't need to take my word for it, just look at everything that you have, that you claim is yours, which is your Social Security, any type of material wealth that you have, whether it be a car, a home, a boat, or a townhouse, or anything you created with that is theirs. You've been pushing around their document because see, they filed for bankruptcy in 1933.
So can we tell them to go send a tow truck and get these documents out of here?
Repeat that again?
Can we tell them to come get a tow truck and get these documents out of here? That's not us.
Well, I can help you how to get out of the matrix. See, that's where I get to come in and tell you. I can show you the door. It's up to you to walk through the door. I can only show you the door. And what's inside the other room, well, okay, that's where I can guide you.
That's where we're going to go.
Yeah, that's where we're going to go. I can only offer you, But getting back to that, so what they've done is, because you none the wiser, and you are incompetent, and you're a ward of the state, and oh, by the way, you are enemy combatant, then therefore we're on a battlefield, so they're telling you you're a prisoner of war. So we don't have to tell what we owe of you. We don't have to disclose to you what we have of yours and what is of yours. You have to figure that out for yourself. But meanwhile, you're a prisoner of war. So while you want to get along in commerce, you're pushing around all their things in their name, claiming that is yours. So naturally, when you get pulled over, they want to give you a speeding ticket. They want to charge you for a violation. What they have attempted to do, what they have done, was done a switch and bait here. They created a sequential trust, and then you just presuming to know that you are a beneficiary. But they declare bankruptcy, so they have an inability to pay their debt. They went into receivership. But before going into receivership, they created a bogus trust to offset the debt, naming you. Now you're held with the liability of being owner because they trick you into announcing that 9/10 is possession. Well, the power that you want to be is 1/10. You want title. You don't want possession. Because with possession, they use the fear of loss to come and take. So in other words, you have to perform whatever performance that they ask of you to do because you're in possession of their possessions, none the wiser. All right. So when it comes time to paperwork, because they have created what they call disparata non debent jonde going on, which is dissimilar things ought not to be joined, which is flesh and blood, you aren't aware that there should be a transmitted utility between you and interacting with them. And they trick you into defaulting you and to accepting their 14th Amendment conditioning, okay, by tricking you to tell you that we're going to give you little pittance of this and little pittance of that. And everybody went along with the program without protesting. Now, the trick how they began to format this plan started in 1933 when they said all persons. At the time, because of the educational full school system, they were under the impression, based on presumption and assumption and what that was taught to them, a person meant you and me. But in their legalese world, a cup of coffee, a broom, a dustpan was a person. So when they said all person turn in their gold, everyone turned in their gold. But the persons that they were actually referring to was businesses. Everyone who went to the state and applied for a CS corporation or LLC or any type of entity under their authorization by registering, that's who they were referring to. Because at that time, their corporate directives, which is the Constitution, didn't apply to you or me. But we, none the wiser, didn't know that.